One of the most difficult problems in philosophy, as well as in sociology, is of the relationship between individual and society. What is what has priority, individual or social? Does the individual, does the social come after an individual, or the individual comes after social? And obviously, we are not going to be able to solve this problem in this short video, but we're just trying to start thinking about the issue and let's see where does it lead us. One thing is clear, at least to me, is that the relationship between individual and society individual and society is reciprocal in the sense that there's no doubt that society affects individual. And there's also no doubt that individuals affect society, for better or worse. So I don't think that the causality in any direction is in doubt. What is the point of contention is what is the determining factor, or more precisely, as we'll come to it, who has priority. So it's more of the question of the priority and then the types of priority. But before we get into that, let's look at how. So the effect of social on society or individual are obvious. The greatest one is language, which we can scarcely change. I mean, the usage affects the language. There's no problem. But the basis of language is all was there, and we are socialized in that language. So that's a huge effect on. And then you have family. You socialize within your family. And then the larger social institutions, which, change with time, but they're always there. Social institution, education, etc., etc. So that's the influence of society over individual. On the other hand, individuals also can affect society, at least in two ways. Unintentionally, in the sense that whatever we do feed back to society, and and become part of um, public space in a sense, and stays there, how much effect it would actually have, you know, that's an empirical question. If I give a speech or write a letter or write a book or make a house, build a house, or teach someone, that's part of a public space, and it's going to stay there. How much it is going to affect the overall structure of society, that's an empirical question. On the other hand, there are people who intentionally try to change society as individuals and more effectively as part of groups. And there are people who are able to reform society and also can revolutionize society. In this case, it's obvious that individual or groups of individuals are able to change society intentionally, but on the other hand, their actions go beyond their intention in a sense that they don't know what will the eventual outcome of their reform or revolution will be in the long run. That's the first thing. So, for example, if you take a modern European history, for example, Luther's Reformation movement. Obviously, the revolutionary and history-changing movement which led to certain reforms which, Luther intended at some point. But what was the overall effect of Luther's reform on the history of Europe, history of Christianity, history of the world, is well beyond what Luther could have imagined. It's doubtful whether he would have even liked everything which actually came out of the intended or unintended consequences of his movement. On the other hand, the second thing is, whenever people try to do something to reform or change society, it often crisscrosses with other people trying to do similar sort of things, but in a different way. For example, sometimes that reconciles, sometimes it reinforces each other, sometimes it cancels out, sometimes it clashes with those other reforms, and the eventual outcome might be a mixture of the dynamic between those forces. So, for example, Luther's Reformation movement developed in an environment where there was already another movement in Europe going on called humanism, and in Germany and in the Europe, and there was another movement called nationalism, which was going on especially in Germany, but throughout Europe. So his reform interacted with humanism as well as nationalism. So they all affected each other in some way. And the overall outcome might have been different from what each of them saw, or maybe one of them might have, outweighed the other. So that's the thing. And the third point is that even those people who are trying to change or reform a society have to work with what the existing structures of a society. And those existing structures of a society basically makes possible a change and also limit what type of change is possible at a particular moment. So for example, if you again look at Luther's Reformation movement, it tried to change society in certain ways, but Christianity and medieval Christian structures, Catholic Christianity, provided the existing structures or conditions which made the reform possible, in the sense that without Catholic Christianity, how can you think of reform movement like that of Luther, but also limit the possibilities, at least at the time. So Luther's movement have strong affinities with other secular movements going on in Europe at the time, and which became more dominant as the time passed on. But at Luther's time, they were barely possible. So it was barely possible to change in the direction of full-fledged secularism, for example. So the existing conditions or structures provide the limit as well as the possibilities of a change. So in that sense, if we go back to our point, although both individuals and society affect each other and both can change each other, society still provides the overall framework, and it's impossible to break out of it. And what does come out that the picture of society as just the collection of individuals is manifestly wrong, in the sense that society although it consists of individuals, but what individual do become independent reality and it outlasts them. For example, especially the language and institutions. So that's why a conception of society as collection of individuals is totally is wrong. Also wrong is the notion of society one way determination of individuals, because individuals are always doing things intentionally and unintentionally which change society, and there's always a room in society, space for freedom. That's where changes and reform come from. So to a notion of society which is collection of individuals seem to be incorrect. Similarly, notion of society as deterministic vis-a-vis individuals also seem incorrect. What do seem correct is that individuals and societies have independent realities and they have reciprocal relationship, although society has an edge over individuals in the sense that it has an independent existence which overlasts individuals, especially in the form of language and institution. But what do, and probably we would look at it separately, what should be remembered is that society is not just the limit in the sense that it prohibits you from doing certain things. It is also the condition of the possibility of you doing things. The best example is language. Language, in a sense, puts a limit on you, what you can say, what you can't say, what you can. But language, to see language as primarily a limit would be a wrong way to understand language. Language also provides you the condition of possibility where you can say certain thing, and obviously you can't say certain thing, but you also. So society provides a horizon where it makes it possible, even though it also limits what people say, but it also makes it possible for them to say what they say. So this was actually my first point I was going to make, but it seems like I should just stop here, and what the rest I should make into another subsequent video, which would be a sequel to it. Okay, see you.